Rogue, your IEM Shanghai champion,
Indeed.
toppling some of the. I mean, that's one of the hardest tournaments of the year as well. By the way,
Of
that might as well
course.
have been a GSL. So he's in top form, and I believe I'm an idiot. I don't have the WCS standings in front of me, but I think this is one of the guys we can see heading towards the BlizzCon tournament. It's, I believe. Ugh, I
I
hate
don't
that
think
I
there's a
even said
question
that, but
about
it's like
that.
5 words into it, so I was like, all right, well, it's done. Anyways, he's a top level player, huge Zerg. But what I like too is the European Zerg base. They're good, but they're great at ZVZ, man. That's you have to be in Europe to be a top Zerg.
You absolutely have to be. And Serral has played against a ton of European Zerg lately in competitive play. He has not had much experience against Korean Zerg. Rogue historically has a hell of a ZVZ matchup, but
Yeah.
lately he's been facing off mostly against Protoss, and he's been doing very well in the process. So his ZVZ, we haven't got to see a huge amount of competitive lately. So this is going to be a tricky one, because we have a player that doesn't really face Koreans in this matchup a lot versus a player that historically is great but lately hasn't shown us much here. So it's a bit of a question mark over this match, and let's see what he can do. He's a hell of a challenger, ladies and gentlemen, to the northwest position in the Blue Trunks, playing Zerg. It is the mighty Rogue. Looking to steal the life force, the powers, and the essence of our king to the southeast position in the Red Trunks. From Finland, he is Serral.
Serral already pocketing $1,500,
Can't
1,500
complain.
smackers, courtesy of the War Chest and Blizzard's awesome support of this fine institution. Putting money back in the pockets of the players. It's really nice that we have the WCS, we have the IEMs, we have some great tournaments, but what I love about ShoutCraft Kings is, A, it's top-notch StarCraft, which of course as a fan of the game you just have to like, but B, it spreads out the money amongst the players. They can show up, like you said, they're playing in their underwear, presumably.
One
Serral
would
is
think.
European, and he's Finnish, so he could be in a sauna naked right now for all we know, and he's winning globs of money.
Yep. That's what you're getting, $500 for every single map, and none of these maps have been easy. These guys have worked for their money. I believe in the philosophy of you win, you get paid. That's what this tournament's all about. You might notice there's a lot of StarCraft 2 in which winning doesn't get you paid. And that's a little bit sad. You know, it's quite top-heavy. The rich often get richer. Winning a tournament is a big deal. A lot of that prize money goes to the top player, the winner. That's kind of the Korean culture, and has been for a while. Now, they're not really into rewarding round of 32 players, although that has got a little bit better lately. They can get a good payday out of reaching round of 32 in the GSL right now, about $2,500. Simultaneously, you win 5 maps in this, you can get $2,500. But which is harder? I don't know. On any given day, it's hard to call. They're both incredibly difficult.
Agreed. StarCraft culture in general, by the way, is just very winner celebration. You know, if you place well and do well, that'll get you comments, and people will be like, yeah, you're starting to show some form. I think Serral's kind of a good example of that. He's won some tournaments, but none of the, like, absolute massive big ones. So that's always kind of mentioned in conjunction with him. It's like, yeah, he's really good. We're waiting for him to win a major tournament. And there's a lot of really good players out there that never win major tournaments, but in StarCraft, you got to win the big one to, or a big one at least, to be put in that discussion.
Yeah, you do. And some people don't like that. Some people really do. It's always good to celebrate winners and have those big moments, those big culminations. But goddamn, is that going to be exhausting for a pro player to run the gauntlet of his peers, to continue to win after win after win after win in these series, even like losing games as well in the process. It's just going to be incredibly exhausting psychologically.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were kind of talking about the Korean scene and how they reward winners and stuff like that. And then what? And then my thought completely escapes me. Apparently I wasn't thinking hard enough. Well, I'm done.
Well, in the meantime, we see a little bit of a wall-off here from Rogue. Looking for the Evolution Chamber and the Roach Warren at the front. It's already a little bit of a diversion. Serral has gone for the third base quite early on.
And Rogue cancels the lair. I'm not a good enough observer to tell you if he saw the lair or not, but he cancels it and immediately makes lings.
Yep.
He's even going to Roach Warren. I think maybe it's that he saw the third base timing, as you pointed out, and said to himself,
exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, as he says it, a drone comes out to take a third. What do we know?
Yeah, maybe he said, all right, I'll play catch-up to that.
And it's a lair. What?
All right, okay. Well, the thing is, he puts 22 lings on the map to be able to harass that. And right now, Serral doesn't really have an answer to that. He's only just morphing a single Baneling. Now 3. If Rogue splits well, that will not be enough to stop him from potentially stopping that third base from mining.
I guess. What?
It is definitely an interesting series of decisions, though, isn't it? It's like, I think Rogue's sort of almost preparing for every possible eventuality here. You know, I think he's going to get a queen out of this. He's going to maybe... that third base is probably going to die. And then Rogue can come back and fall back on a big economy. Banelings come in, but great split so far here from Rogue. Excellent split. About as good as it gets. All 3 Banelings almost dead. Reinforcements coming in. Good detonation here, but Rogue still with the upper hand in terms of those numbers. The Morph is just buying time. Trying to get another Baneling in here. Trying to save this third. So far, Serral holding it.
Not bad, and Serral does hold on to it, but in that defense, you can kind of see the seesaw of Z and ZVZ going back and forth. It is Rogue that's droning behind this, and it was looking a little bit dicey in terms of decision-making there, but he's going to ultimately end up saturating his third. Yep. He's up 10 workers. So yeah, good move. Just a really great Zerg versus Zerg decision there.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and it is the kind of thing we'd expect from Rogue, who is such a high-level Zerg versus Zerg player. It was the right thing to do. He knew that there was a very real possibility he couldn't take that hatchery, and if he overcommitted even to killing the hatchery, if he spent too much doing it, he opens himself up to a potential counterattack. And that's not good. Yep. You know, that he loses his own third, he maybe even gets his natural sacked. You don't want that. And Rogue's now backing off, and he's in a decent position to hold this. He now has roaches on the field, so Serral can't really do much right now.
But very important that he sees that roaches are starting to come out, too. That gives him an idea that if he doesn't remain on top of his scouting here, Rogue could just show up with 20 roaches, and that's a huge problem.
Yep.
That being said, these roaches are actually crossing the map. Good counterattack here from Serral. Queen. He dislodges the drones. He's buying some time here. And the roaches are ultimately by themselves, because now it's a weird choice for Rogue. He built 10 drones in a cycle there, and is now coming back to roaches.
Yep.
But that means there's a huge gap in his roach production, and they're going to probably just come back home. That's exactly right. So they just walked back and forth, and they're like, nope, go home.
Accomplish nothing. The Serral run-by was perfectly timed. Also gets great scanning information. Knows pretty much everything that's going on with his opponent. And didn't really invest a lot. Getting the queen, a couple of drones, and disrupting mining, totally worth it.
Yeah. Fantastic job by Serral. And that was something we talked about early on in our analysis of his play, too, is he's just so active with those lings, and they serve him so well. Now, Serral's going to be the one to push out here. Now, to keep in mind, by the way, for our I guess, slightly more casual fans, roaches moving across the map is not necessarily an announcement of an attack or a declaration of it. It's the possibility, but it's also to manipulate your opponent and say, hey, stop making drones. You got to make some units, or you will just die.
Yeah, especially in Zerg versus Zerg, so very key. That decision is a big deal. Ravagers now being added into the mix, which invariably happens once we reach the Roach Wars now in Legacy of the Void. What's interesting is that Rogues are putting Burrow into the mix as well, so we may be seeing Tunneling Claws as a possibility here from Rogue, which indicates a longer commitment to Roaches. In the meantime, quick run by tries to cancel the fourth. It's not going to get it. No, it shouldn't, although it's very, very close. Perilously close.
Oh my god.
Serral survives.
Serral's got buns, balls, and everything of steel. He holds on. He's down to like 20 health. But he just knew. He was one-shotting the Lings with a pair of roaches. He was going to reduce the DPS and survive it. Now behind this, a lot of roaches coming out. And as you talked about, it's going to be Rogue with the Tunneling Claws.
Yep. And
more of a Ravager base for Serral. But if you look around, Serral's got Overlords out on the map, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of detection. I know he had the one Overseer.
Yeah, which almost died, incidentally, because it actually doesn't have speed. He never bothered to get speed for it, so almost got shot down. In the meantime, the Overseer for Rogue contaminated the hatchery over here, so that's a big deal. You know, slowing down lava production in a mirror match is a huge deal. Rogue using every little advantage at his disposal. He's looking to have Tunneling Claws kick in right as he attacks here.
Yeah, that's kind of the cool thing. That he's showing these roaches, and they don't have the spiky upgrade to signify that they have that. It's about to kick in here in a second. And the Overseer of Serral, by the way, getting great intel, but a lesser Zerg wouldn't see that. Would see the army and be like, oh, he's not going to burrow, but then all of a sudden there's burrowed roaches in his face.
Yeah, and now he's going for it right here. And he gets an incredible surround here on Serral, actually, but the reinforcements do come in from the side. So will he be able to crush it? Some decent biles, though, landing in the middle of Serral's army. That's a good amount of damage, and excellent dodging here from Rogue as well. The Tunneling Claws not really being used, not really coming into effect. If only he could just take down that weak Overseer. Again, more excellent biles, but the defender's advantage, something we often mention in Rogue, in a Rogue versus Roach, I would imagine. That's a big deal, but Rogue actually did sneak in a few burrowed roaches, realizing, oh, Serral actually only has that one overseer and it has to fight at the front. I can do some damage here. And he has. He's nipped away a little bit. He's forced Serral to break off forces to defend. There's the detection, finally. Serral's just going to have to up his game in terms of numbers of overseers, which he has done. He's up to 4 now.
Yep, he's able to deflect the main harass, but the natural, he did take some losses there. And
that he did.
And Rogue's just trying to lean on him with his multitasking. This isn't getting the most damage done, but it's won him position to probably strike out and kill this lower 4th base.
Yeah, that's dead.
I'm going to call it.
No doubt about it. Rains down, frankly, unnecessary biles to do that, but that's fine. Going to be able to back up without really taking much damage. Tries to kill the Overseer, doesn't quite do it. It's like, you almost think, hey, if I had a Spire and 1 Corruptor, that would kind of be a nice addition to this, but bear in mind, the detection's not the only thing with tunneling. It's the regeneration, and you can really use that to great effect. You can micro in a battle. Look at how fast these roaches regenerate. So there are possibilities for Rogue here that he hasn't yet used. Oh my god, he just nuked his own army! He was trying to kill the Overseer. He misses the Overseer, almost kills 2 of his own Ravagers. Maybe not the best idea I've ever seen happen.
No, and Serral was on top of it, by the way, because he just has them on follow, so I think Rogue was like, you're being lazy, and no,
it's
he's
like,
not.
Just bring a queen at this point. Rogue's actually getting Hydras. He's just sick of this right now.
Can you blame him?
No, it's really annoying. It's like, I'm going to put Overseer right in the middle. I'm going to make you nuke your own units. Oh, that was a potential for shot right there, and he actually gets tempted into a position, but reinforcing roaches pop up from behind. Here we go once again. The Ravager's caught on the left flank, though, and some decent damage with the biles, but they will get taken out. However, it looks it's a difficult call to make. I think Serral might, but he doesn't, but he does, but he doesn't, but he does.
What ultimately happened was the Ravagers of Rogue were caught without any kind of insulation. There's no roaches in front of them, so they pack a wallop when they're not being touched, but once they start getting touched, and look at Rogue, by the way, with his Overseers, like, you know what? If you can do it, so can I.
I'm getting right on top of you as well. I'm going to drop Changeling in the middle. Just be annoying as hell. Hydra Den being added in for Serral. 42 more roaches will build for Rogue. He just immediately remaxes on roaches, holds down the R, also known as the Stefano method. And he's going to engage again with that. He's got level 2 ground carapace on the way, which actually Serral has completely neglected armor. This could be a big deal, considering the roaches on Rogue's side already have the attack, so we're talking about 2-0 versus 2-2.
Detection here. We have the run-by coming in from Serral, but look at Rogue on top of it. He moves the roaches over there and says, go ahead and unburrow.
Yep.
I've got detection on the way.
There's the split, and Rogue going for the harass here, picks off another queen. This is some excellent board roach harassment here. Detection or no detection, you're dealing with regenerating, very fast-moving, invisible roaches. They're going to be a pain. They're hard to deal with. You can attack 3 or 4 places at once. That's exactly what Rogue's doing. Serral is being stretched to his multitasking limit here.
Yeah, because it was Serral that was also trying to pull off that harass as well.
Yep.
The other side of the map, and his was less successful. It was Rogue that's able to defend and get the harass in.
Rogue has the Spine Crawler, which, just a nice little investment. Some players just don't want static defense, but in this case, I think you really need it.
Yeah. And finally, some purchase here happening for Serral, where he gets a couple of drones. One of the gases for Rogue only has 1 drone on it, but that being said, he has about 1,000 gas banks, not the biggest of deals. Should he not see that. And as you said, a 2 armor upgrade now in favor of Rogue. So with both players maxed, you see army supply about the same. Composition similar. They're both getting Hydras out. It's going to come down to the Corrosive Biles hitting. And so far, it's been Rogue that's been more impressive, in my opinion, with A, dodging the Corrosive Biles, but B, landing them as well. So
I would agree.
We need to see Serral tighten it up here. Otherwise, he could just get overwhelmed by the upgrades and the composition.
Yeah, I'm worried for Serral's Hydras against these roaches with 3 armor. That's going to take a big chunk out of that DPS. Yeah,
absolutely. A big run by here, by the way, from Serral coming in on this 3rd base.
Yep.
His army's moving out. He's got to be careful, as you talked about. But this harass is good. The Spine Crawler, good idea, but it's going to die because there's so many roaches.
Need a couple more. And really, you've got the bank for it. And you've probably got too many drones anyway, although that problem is being solved quite easily by Serral here. It's like, turn a few Spine Crawlers. You get 3 Spine Crawlers on each base. A roach run by ain't going to do much. So it gives you the time to react. In this case, the whole army's being dragged back just to deal with 2 of those damn roaches, which is annoying. In the meantime, Rogue trying to get his own burrowed roaches in, but the defenses have been better so far. Rogue's got an errant one right next to the Hydra Den there. Still no detection, still no static defense here from Serral. Yeah. And Serral's taken major losses as a result of that.
Yeah, it's always interesting for us to watch because static defense to us is such a simple answer, but for pro gamers, they're like, no, if I spend that little bit too much, it can be an issue. Now, of course, we can see they have banks, so in my opinion, that excuse starts to get kind of silly at some point.
Easy to get tunnel visioned into that attitude, though, right? Like, you don't even look at your bank half the time. You're just like, we need units. When Lurker Den, Rogue actually cancelled it then, went back into it, and Hive added on. So we've finally got to the stage where both players need some tech to break this deadlock.
And there you're talking about the 3 spine crawlers at the kind of pocket base near 12 o'clock actually deflects that. And we do have Lurker Den.
It's very nice. Interesting addition here. Highly dangerous. You can wipe out a whole mineral line with Lurker drops very quickly.
And he has the faster Hive too, so that upgrade advantage, 2 armor is a big deal, but if it becomes like 3 attack and 3 armor, a 4 upgrade advantage, all of a sudden your roaches, your hydras, they turn into like little commandos, and it becomes a very, very big deal.
Serral going old school here with infestors being added into the mix. It's a good option, against a big ball of roaches. Adding the fungal growth right into the middle, that's a good amount of area of effect damage. And locking down the enemy means you can combo it with corrosive biles for extra damage. You see the static defense for Serral not quite good enough, but it will buy some time so that the army can respond and react to this.
Yep. And even
Rogue not paying attention. It gets caught by a solid flank here, taking some damage.
Yeah, it's going to dip into that bank here. The iron banks of Rogue. Going to have to spend some money there. He's mining quite healthy behind this, though. He's only got the 45 drones, so you'd look at that and be like, that's a huge issue. But with the bank, with the hive, still mining off of about 2 bases healthily, that is actually the right-ish number of workers that you want. Obviously, you can spin that bank pretty quick in a ZVZ. If they have a dedicated, huge roach battle, like you talked about earlier, it's like, I need 45 more roaches. Well, there goes your bank.
You can do it. Yeah, because Rogue's sitting on 65 lava in the bank, and there's 51 for Serral. This is how many hatcheries these guys have, and they're very diligent with injection, even when they have an overabundance. You can never have too many lava. You never know when you might need them.
No, they don't cost anything, so why not? Just have more.
Just the APM. A little bit more harass once again.
Yeah, exactly. Just keeping up that harass.
Oh, the fungal is a big one, and that army gets wiped out, and that is the combo. It catches Rogue unawares. I think that's the first time he saw the infestors. And now he's going to have to be more careful.
Some more dedicated harass going on inside the main here for Serral. The other nice function about that harass, by the way, is the scout's tech. So he sees there is no Lurker Den here. He sees the infestation pit, so unfortunately he got that memo just a little bit too late.
Yep.
But so far he's not seeing things like a spire. There's no Ultralisk cavern. So what is the hive tech of Serral? Is it going to be Vipers?
Looks like it's going to be Ultralisk.
Yeah, but late, right? So Lurkers are an okay response. And now with the Greater Spire, Broodlords become a fantastic response. So I like Serral's positioning, but if this proceeds and his tech remains fairly dormant or just committed to Ultralisk and he doesn't see what's coming, he just dies. He has no answer for Broodlords.
Yeah, and Serral's advantage right now is in his bank, but at 200 supply, that bank might as well not matter. Right. You do need to rebuild, and if you don't have the tech to even build the units you'll need after the remax, then it doesn't matter, does it?
Right. I'd love a Spire, right? Like just a Spire. You're not going to use it right now, but you want to build
just
it.
Get one.
This is not run by the way. This is a, what do you even call that? It's a... migration?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's a flock of roaches.
He's going to the empty base, unfortunately. It's like there's only 2 drones there.
Yeah.
The other bases have spine crawlers, but no detection.
He will stop gas mining, though. And, even though it's not a lot of gas, I think at this stage of the game, Rogue's gas bank is maybe a critical attack point. Oh, and we see a response here. Serral gets caught by the infestors this time. And good damage done by Rogue. 16 workers killed in the process, though.
Yeah.
That was, as you said, not a run by. And in fact, that base actually might die at this point. The Queen's certainly going down on the way out.
He's going to back out. I agree with you. I think I would have picked off the hatch.
Yeah.
He wants the roaches to live to fight another day, which is nice because they just can kind of hang out there and be a nuisance. But they are going to go all the way back home. And to your point, Rogue, he lost some gas, but is able to stabilize because ultimately both players, there's just so much dangerous tech out there now.
Yep.
that overcommitting is
dangerous.
$5.
Yeah. Although I have to say, like, I would have liked to see Serral just commit. Like, with your bank that size, losing 10 roaches to kill a hatchery is not a deal at all. That's not even a factor worthy of consideration.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on that. Another roach migration at the top of the map, because the other thing that's happening here too is you don't want that tech of the supply of roaches. They kind of serve their point. You need broodlords, you want ultras, you want lurkers, that kind of stuff more at this point in time.
Yep, there's a big sponge. If we look at our upgrades here, we see Serral at 3-2. He's definitely caught up in that regard. Rogue on 3-3, and the ground armor being upgraded. Yeah, so Serral's a little... The problem with the Ultra switch, I guess, from Serral is that he hasn't invested at all in melee attacks, so those Ultras are going to hit like wet tissue paper up until the fact that he gets those upgrades in place. But he's getting there. In the meantime, the Broodlords for Rogue, and actually not a lot of answer yet from Serral to that.
Viper Hydra kinda, but the
not enough of either.
Is 10, so and to your point, the Vipers are only 3. So no, that's not the beginning of it. What I do like about it is that he is rich, like you said, 8,000 minerals and about 3,000 gas. So he has the stuff in place to be like, oh no, Broodlords, and he can make like 25 or 30 Hydras. So he's not going to just outright die, is my prediction here. But to your point too, it's a concern. He needs more anti-air.
Yep. There is no doubt about that, and of course, with a maxed out army, you don't have a lot of flexibility in that regard. You can do the supply trick, which we've seen these players do before, but that doesn't get you a huge number of units. Serral, burrowing under, you could easily shut this base down, probably should, and probably should invest as well. Stop being so careful with your roaches. You can afford to lose them right now, and Rogue is pushing forward with tech. 7 Vipers are being added into the mix here for Serral right now, but this is happening right now. This is not something that Serral can delay any longer, and of course, with the infestation as well being a big factor, it's going to be a really hard army to attack.
I like Serral's patience here. A lot of players would have just jumped in there and tried to fight because that's a whole base he's losing behind it, but he pulls the drones. Wisely so. He's waiting. He's got 13 more roaches coming. That's a bit of a weird choice for me. You got the bank.
They don't shoot up. I'm a bit concerned. Yeah, just it's going to take a couple of fungal growths for that army to get locked down and then destroyed. But I think he's just buying time for energy for his Vipers, because now we're just going to pull all the Broodlords out of position and kill them. And he combos that with a fungal growth, but fungal growth on the other side locks the Vipers down as well. Oh, big corrosive bile right in the center. There's another pull, another fungal being thrown off. But as it turns out, not quite enough to kill those Vipers yet. If he could just kill them, and he gets a lot of them, this is a massively damaging fight from both sides. Considering how careful they've been up to this point, this is just screw it. We're gonna kill each other now.
Big bloody fight. The Spore Crawlers end up, by the way, being the MVPs there. He abducts to a low Hydra count army, and if he doesn't have the Spore Crawlers, they don't do anything, but he's able to do that.
God damn it.
It is Rogue that, like... So here's the situation. His 2 Hydras retreat, but he lost a base behind this. It was I don't know how to call that, actually, TotalBiscuit. Supply is like dead even. Workers slightly... what a weird...
it was a bank issue for a while, but suddenly Serral burned his entire bank, mostly by going Hydra heavy with some more infestors. It turns out his gas count wasn't quite as good as it looked, and Rogue was able to mine again to catch up on the mineral side of things. So they've both rebuilt their armies, and now the bank is a lot less of an issue.
21 Hydras to 25, 28 Roaches to 28, 2 Infestors to 2 Infestors. What in the hell? They're completely equal, basically. They both found themselves in the same army comp.
Yep.
And it's, I guess, you know what? It's Rogue that has the base or 2 more. So I guess that's where we find the advantage. He's got 20 supply advantage here as well. Otherwise the same. First fungal lands here pretty good.
Oh, it is a good one. But no, it didn't really get the corrosive bile follow-up. That's the worry here. Does Serral have the firepower to make this happen? Both armies just going at each other, and it's Serral who is able to make that happen with just a better Hydra concave, and Rogue's sent packing and taking a lot of damage in the process as he gets out of there.
Yes, so he's got the better base situation, but in the background, 3 Roaches cancel 1. The other base at 12 o'clock is not mining, so I don't know. I don't even know that we call it a better base situation. He's mined out most of everything else. And Rogue taking that decisive fight when both players have depleted banks was huge.
Yep. Very damaging for both sides. Serral with the larger army right now, but is it big enough to really turn it into anything? You've got these bases that need picking off. A little bit of this harass, which is probably not going to get a lot done. and it's giving Rogue a bit of time to rebuild. The Infestors, there's not really enough for them to be the X factor anymore. I'd definitely like to see one of these players go for it, but Rogue actually just built a massive round of drones. He's up to 63 drones now.
Yeah.
He thinks Serral's too scared to come at him, and he's wrong. Serral is going right at him, although he aimed to tempt him into a choke point for maybe a fungal growth.
He goes down that ramp, the game's over.
Yeah, he does. He knows.
Here. And now it's Serral that, like you said, only has the 47 workers, but is taking 2 bases that he can't really utilize. So I'd love to see him get a round of drones out or something, because at 12 o'clock's just going to die for free. That's fine. And he is starting to saturate the 6-ish o'clock base.
Yep.
But not really with the drones to do it. There's a couple more coming out. And now the Ultras, by the way, they enter back into the game. There's no more Broodlords, so they have much more of a deal. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, that will be interesting. That you can't fungal an Ultralisk last I checked. Unless they changed that. I can't imagine they did. So they're going to...
They have damage, too. They actually contribute to the front lines a lot. They tank really well, and they just do AoE damage to those roaches, so they can get through that insulation pretty good.
Yep, and these Infestors do not have the Neural Parasite. You know, not a very common thing to research. Although, if Rogue does have to deal with those Ultras, he may decide to change his mind on that. But, you know, as we mentioned, the Infestor count is too low on either side for them to really be a huge X factor here. And Serral now with another big army, slightly bigger than Rogue's. Will those Ultras be the difference makers? Not at the back, they won't. So we're going to have to see a little bit of that. Oh, catches Rogue out of position. Kills a run by. Oh, a lovely shot with the fungal growth on the way out. This is going to make a difference. That was a good 15 supplies worth of roaches here. He could go now.
Yeah, and neither player have that 8,000 mineral bank anymore,
No,
so
don't.
it is a big deal, like
They're
you
very
said.
Cautious.
And look at Serral, by the way, defending that lower base. So it can no longer be ran by. You have to fully commit to that. But both players kind of take the equal base in that way. You'll notice it's Serral that's featuring gas here, because he is the one getting out. Well, wow, he's going to go for this. We have a full surround here. He's going to go up.
It's a dangerous thing to do, but simultaneously with only 2 Infestors, it might be worth it. A 2-pronged attack might break through, especially with Ultras in the mix.
Blinding Clouds as well.
Yep, here it goes. He's going for both sides. Here we go. He's going to try and make his way in there. The Ultra actually melts immediately. It's nowhere near tough enough. An excellent fungal growth on the right flank. A counter fungal. Serral's actually backing away despite having the numbers to break the top.
Well, I think he makes the right choice. I think he was planning on Rogue having a slightly slower reaction or not having the fungals.
Yeah, Rogue's right on top of that.
But he just responds immediately. Now, I do like this response from Serral. 6 Ultras and 3 Infestors with another Roach migration to perhaps hunt out one of these bases that are supporting Rogue.
Yep.
But great snap reaction from Rogue. And a nice decision by Serral, a hard one, albeit, to pull back and say, you know what, this is not working. I need to find other ways to get in there.
Hell of a game so far. We've had a hell of a tournament so far. A lot of long, really good games. Like, you know, people are asking what's the benefit of increasing the prize pool. I think we've just seen it. These guys are taking this very seriously, rightfully so. A base is going to fall. That was an excellent run by there by Rogue, and he's even going to get out of there with minimal damage. Investing just a few roaches to do that. Excellent. In the meantime, Serral does go for the counter-attack. Rogue with the extra workers to kind of deal with that forces, you know, almost the entire army back. I think it's this hyper caution from both sides that's causing this game to go as long as it is.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Spinecrawlers push forward. So that I mean, if the 4 Spinecrawlers were in position, by the way, that hatch never dies. So
yeah, it doesn't.
It's interesting because he was doing that for counter run bys, not like full on defense. But with 4 Spinecrawlers, it actually takes quite a few roaches to deal with them. So
it does.
Yeah. To consider.
They still hit pretty hard, you know, even against heavily armored roaches. Spinecrawler's a slow, high damage unit. It's perfect for that. Serral eliminates that bottom base. I mean, if you're going to put it right next to Serral's base, that's kind of expected. These Spinecrawlers borrowed on no creep at all. They're actually losing HP, but that will resolve itself momentarily. This is turning a very weird game, and tech-wise, we're seeing a retransition back to Broodlord here for Rogue.
Yep. Broodlords can get to a certain point. Like, we saw a heroic defense from Serral, and that was the only reason he's still here.
Yeah.
If he makes the choice not to make those Spore Crawlers or, you know, skimps on Hydras like he did, he just dies.
He dies.
So that's how close this game came to being decided outright. And there again are those roaches showing up to, again, that hatchery that's not being covered by this. So Serral might be forced into a situation where it might be time to go.
Yeah, it would be kind of embarrassing to lose this hatch to 5 roaches, but it's looking like it's absolutely going to happen. Serral's not responding to it, I think because Serral thinks, well, he can get a base trade out of it, and he doesn't want to respond with too much of his army because there are 2 massive, equally sized Zerg armies. If he commits even a portion of his army to defending that, he may lose. And he has to now, again, fight up this damn ramp, which is a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, he can't let that base live, though. He's actually pulling back his whole army. I think that's a really interesting choice. He sees that base exists, he's just going to just kind of pull back. They're both maxed. Well, I was going to say they're both maxed out, but it's actually Serral that's got about 18 supply to give.
Yeah.
The banks are starting to form up a little bit, but again, that's not the kind of number where you get this like immediate gigantic remax. Some Broodlords are coming out, but not a huge number just yet. The
not
third
enough
one
to change the face of the game as of yet. There's a big run by here from the Roaches of Rogue that will just slightly outnumbered, especially with the Spine Crawler support. And Rogue will, I think, you know, he's not going to be forced back completely, but he's going to lose enough roaches maybe for this not to be an issue. Serral is now migrating Spore Crawlers into the territory of Rogue.
I love it.
Excellent maneuver.
That's really cool. People don't think in those terms very often, but here we go. It's kind of funny, too, because, by the way, they do block the Ultras, so he has to be concerned about
Yeah, he does have to be a bit worried about that. Oh, God, this is not the time at all to migrate drones. Oh, no.
No.
Huge amount of them killed on both sides, actually. The Roach run-by has been a nightmare.
And now we're going to have that big...
Oh, God, here we go! It's an absolute disaster area. Infested Terrans going down everywhere. Huge numbers of those, too. They were fungal, but not enough, and suddenly the infestor count is enough to lay down a huge curtain of fire.
I love it. I love that defense coming out from for Rogue, excuse me. He's able to block the Ultras, and then, of course, when they finish out and be infested Terrans themselves, they deal damage. So, just a brilliant move there. Serral's going to pull back, and again, he's being a little bit hesitant with that bank. He's spending some of the money. He's down 20-ish supply. He was supply blocked, so I think that was holding him back for a second.
Yeah, a lot of Overlords were killed.
Drones here, even.
Yep, could lose quite a lot of that. Serral again with the run-by doing more drone damage. Here's the thing. I think this is the big difference maker. 6 more Broodlords on the way and a Corruptor count. What's Serral got to actually handle that? Not much. Like, 1 Viper, that isn't enough. 3 Infestors, not enough.
Yeah, he's adding to it. I mean, but to your point, it does get to a certain point where if you can't reach the Broodlords, or you're not able to land Spore Crawlers and abduct into that, which, by the way, that is no longer going to happen anymore.
No.
Then it becomes, no, that's not enough. You can't do it.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, Rogue has really dropped the ball on upgrading the Broodlords. Broodling Strike hasn't been upgraded at all. So bear that in mind. It's hitting way weaker than it usually would.
So it does like -4 damage to Ultras, I guess? They kind of heal something?
Yeah, it hits for 20, but, you know, the Ultra Armor is going to take a good half of that off. And yeah, there is Broodling DPS too, but I wonder what the melee upgrades are. Well, Rogue has no melee upgrades, so these Broodlords are actually far, far weaker than they have any right to be.
Right. It's deceiving a little bit. It's more about how they create a curtain of things that you don't want to be fighting while everything else behind it's fighting.
Yeah, but I actually have the feeling that while this should have changed the game, because Rogue dropped the ball on those upgrades, these Broodlords are not going to be the game changers that we thought they would be, even with 15 of them. I mean, that sounds like a really stupid prediction, and I may be completely off here, but I genuinely think, especially with a tough 3-3 army, a lot of Ultras and Vipers in the mix, I don't think the Broodlords will do it. But I may be completely mistaken, and we're about to find out.
Yeah, I mean, he shows up in this position right here, and I feel like Serral has to pull the drones and can't fight. He cannot go...
Yes, he can't fight there, no.
That's all his mining base is. Everything else is mined out behind this, so he's either got to go for a base trade to come over here and fight, because he's going to lose both these bases before he even blinks.
Yeah, that's a lot of firepower. You know, those heavily upgraded Hydras. They're going to melt through this very, very quickly. And Serral's army is a bit more maneuverable because it's not stuck around with a big slowly unit like a Broodlord, but in this position, this is really hard to attack. You know, you can attack up onto the cliff, but really, Serral has no way to counterattack there, and Serral is actually going for another run-by, but it doesn't really make a difference at this point. He can kill some tech, but there's a defense there too.
TotalBiscuit, so keep your eye on that, and I don't know that Rogue has noticed it just yet. He's going after the Hydra Den, but he stopped, or the Lurker Den, rather. This army, this Juggernaut from Rogue, has gone on. It's killed both the mining bases. It's stopped one of them, actually. It's pulled back. Serral's one positioning, though. Oh, if he can get on top of this.
Yep.
Yeah. No, we're gonna have a fight. Here it is.
Yeah, here it is. It's going to have to happen one way or the other. The Ultralisk gets Fungal and doesn't really care too much. Fungal, for the most part, misses. Here we go. Parasitic bombs on absolutely every Broodlord. They barely split in time, and they're all going to die. What a maneuver by Serral. He wipes the Broodlord count from 15 to about 5, and the remaining Corruptors will pick off what's left. There's not quite enough on the ground here for Serral to clean out what's left of Rogue's army, though.
And he does not have much in the bank.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
God, they're stuck. They got... Oh, the fungal! The fungal block. Serral uses a wall of burrowed infestors to block the retreat of Rogue. Fungals on the way out. A little bit of a drive-by here, but what a devastating fight on both sides again. They're going to mine this map out.
They actually might. I was looking at this and I was like, well, the supply advantage is huge for Rogue, but all of a sudden, like...
the parasitic bombs.
Yeah, he's only a 30 supply behind. He's got the infestors. I mean, Rogue, if he loses his army, there's no rebuilding it. He's going to kill this base down here. Serral's down to 1 mining base.
Yep.
So for that's where Rogue's got to win this, right? He has to.
Yeah, the Hydra count is devastating. I'm just really worried about these infestors. Serral could easily fungal it, and he gets one! He gets one! If he could only get the other side, needs the follow-up for that, needs the Ravager Bile, doesn't get either. Big fungals on the counter-attack as Rogue tries to chew through that army. Hydra's going down left, right, and center. The firepower for Rogue might just be too much for Serral to handle. Here it is, the final encounter, Ragnarok. They're going for it. One of these guys has to die. Gods versus Titans. Serral doesn't have enough. GG! Rogue dethrones the Finnish king after a ridiculous Zerg versus Zerg.
34 minutes of back.
Oh my God.
They never stopped harassing each other. There's just so much ebb and flow in terms of tech paths and responses to said tech paths.
How do you even do that? Any of that?
Phenomenal game.
I haven't seen a Zerg versus Zerg like that in a long time. That was insanity. From both sides.
The matchup has gotten better, like you said, and it just shows when 2 top players play. And not to toot our own horn too much, but it's so fun in the best-of-1 format because, again, in a best-of-5, best-of-3, you'll see a lot more ling all-ins. You'll see a lot more kind of a timing attack-oriented play. But here, both these guys playing for big money, wanted that best-of-1 in a big way, and ended up with... I mean, you actually don't see that many Legacy of Void games that go 34 minutes, let alone ZVZ. So that was really cool. And I'm actually really impressed with Serral, by the way. You showed us the ZVT. We saw his ZVP a couple of times. And he just narrowly lost to the IEM Shanghai champion, Rogue, who's one of the best in Korea. And like you said, in particular in ZVZ, by the way, Rogue's very good. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was crazy. Just insane. And we've got so much more. We're only in Group 2. This might go on all day. Just saying.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm ready.
By the way, numbers on this tournament, we're looking at possibly the biggest Kings of all time right now. If this keeps growing the way that it is. We have on the English stream alone 17,000 concurrent viewers, and that's not counting our foreign streams. This is turning into the biggest Kings of all time, and how appropriate, considering the quality of games right now.
Bear witness. And hopefully we see a lot of you guys come back, by the way, because this is, again, not to toot our own horn too much here, but this is no stranger. I think every ShoutCraft Kings you and I have done have had a ton of phenomenal games. I've been really happy with it.
Yep. Amazing. All right, we're switching server. We've got a lot more coming your way at this point. I'd like to thank, of course, Blizzard for providing the extra prize pool here. And as we mentioned earlier, the extra prize pool is funded by the War Chest, which is a selection of cosmetic items that you can buy in-game right now. They said, hey, we're going to put some more money towards BlizzCon prize pool. They didn't... Here's the reality. Here's the inside scoop for you. It's not much of an inside scoop, but there you go. This is something they didn't expect to raise as quickly as they did, which I think kind of shows a massive underestimation of the passion of this community, but they didn't expect to raise the extra $200,000 for BlizzCon in under a week. They did. They now basically have more money than they know what to do with, and they've chosen to give some of that money to me.
Which is not a bad place to put it. Like, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but just, I love the just inarguable function of this, which is to reward the players for their hard work. And it's spread out too, which is nice. You know what? I'm not even begrudging the other formats, by the way. I like champions being rewarded. I like definitive tournaments, but I love having other formats to watch too. And this has been a very successful and fun one.
It has, yeah. And I think like you need variety. You don't need every tournament to run the same format. We know that the GSL style duel tournament is the most popular, and rightfully so. Does it produce the right winner? I think it does most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. We're not really about producing the right winner here. We're just about producing winners. Even winning a map. You know, if Rogue gets knocked out there, in this match right here, he still had one of the best ZVZ in years. And we've seen some of the best games in years today already, and we're only about 6 or 7 maps into the tournament. Oh,
I can't wait. Serral looked good. That's the biggest streak we had. There was 3 wins, and he was fighting tooth and nail for that 4th, but Rogue... I love the player list, by the way. We let's not forget we had Innovation start this day off, but now
we opened with Innovation of all people.
The IEM champion, like I said, Rogue surprised a lot of people. That tournament was the best of the best in Korea. Like, it was only missing a couple guys for the most part, but it was basically a freaking GSL played out over the course of a weekend, and it was Rogue that came out on top. That's an amazing statement.
Yeah, it is. You don't... Zerg has... I think he's flown under the radar. He's been I wouldn't call him necessarily a sort of hipster player that's like, oh, well, I knew him before he was cool sort of thing. But I would say that, in particular, Rogue has been super impressive. And what we've seen out of him today has been great. What we've seen out of him in other tournaments has been great. And his Zerg versus Zerg's kind of on another level. But you can't count out... You called this, by the way, right down the middle. You called this when we first went into this match. European Zergs, because of the quality, because of the skill on that server, their ZVZ is often mind-blowingly good.
And Rogue's considered one of, if not the best, Korean Zerg versus Zerg players, specifically. So
yeah, he is.
To be fair, though, Serral is considered the best European Zerg. So what we got was a very nice, very sick display of what good ZVZ can look like. And it's nice... By the way, let's just put a little tip of the hat for ourselves. It's nice when it plays out that way, because
you can't
you're the
guarantee it.
I'm the optimistic guy. Like, a lot of times I'm like, gosh, man, imagine if these guys are 2 of the best, and then, like, you know, he dies to a drop, and you're like, oh, okay, never mind. Not a good game. This one, amazing.
Yep. It has been absolutely incredible. We're just getting into the next map, folks. We apologize for the delay. I was also sort of making the decision as to whether or not I want to drop the teaser and the announcement of one of the new ShoutCraft Kings, ShoutCraft events. So not Kings, non-Kings. Stay on the line. A little bit later, I'm going to show you some teasers. It's a tournament I've wanted to do for a long time, and I haven't had the opportunity, but because
I already know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
And here's the thing. If anyone's a big TotalBiscuit fan, they also, because you've talked about this publicly as well.
I have.
So
yeah. If they've been paying attention.
iNcontroL friendly teaser, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
You've heard of this sometime. It's been a while, though. You haven't talked about it in a while.
No, I haven't. It was one of those ideas that never came to fruition, but now it has, thanks to basically blank check crazy tournament funding. And there's more where that came from. I'll say this. There is not going to just be one new ShoutCraft event. There are going to be more than that. All right. It took a little bit of time to get in this, but I can assure you this is going to be worth the wait, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps worth its weight in gold. We've seen Rogue play against a Zerg and play one of the best ZVZ in recent memory. His versus Terran might be his weakest matchup, but we're still looking at 65% win rate in recent events against the best in the world.
Yeah.
And this man right here, it's Kalazur. Kalazur, the hero of GSL versus the world, the only foreigner to take a game. Here he is, representing Brazil.
And what a game he took, by the way. It was a really cool TVT against TY, one of the hottest hands in the scene. But when you talk about Terran in Korea, by the way, it's not Terran, it's Korean Terran, and that is actually something different. So
it is.
When you say Rogue has a 65% and it might be his weakest matchup, what I hear is this guy is one of the Spartan 300 holding off impossible numbers. Now, the Korean Terrans don't have numbers. They just are lumbering colossus, gigantic gods of war. So that's impressive by Rogue. Now, Kalazar's not a Korean Terran, but he's been training over there, and it's been showing really consistent. That was one of the words you were using earlier, but also just phenomenal play in WCS. Now, WCS, it's mostly non-Korean, so that's very nice. But can he do it here against one of the best in Korea?
Good question. Well, he's done it in an environment that most people can't do it in. To see a foreigner win in a offline Korean-based event is extremely rare.
Right.
Extremely rare. And yeah, there was no doubt in my mind that foreigners were going to lose. And they did. But this man didn't. This man stood tall. This man said, no, I am that good. And I'm a foreign Terran as well. You didn't see that one coming, did you? So to the southwest position here on Mech Depot, how appropriate. In the blue trunks, playing Terran, representing the country of Brazil, it's Root Kalazar. Versus his opponent, a titan and a champion. One of the best players right now, and the current reigning king of the hill. In the red trunks, from Jin Air and South Korea, playing Zerg, it's Rogue.
And right off the bat, Mr. TotalBiscuit, we get our first Cheddar of the tournament of the day.
My, he's doing it.
One of the more predicted things. I mean, this is kind of akin to the Archon/Dark Templar drop of Protoss. At a first glance, you look at it and you go, "Wow, this is mega cheese. It's an all-in." And then it kind of became more clear as the meta marched on that it's more of a leveraging of times, and this is that. So he's got gas going on behind this. This will be Reapers, of course. But a lot of times with that late gas, and I think that is going to be what it is, it's actually going to be like Marines and a bunker rush to cancel the natural. This is something innovation made very popular in GSL. And then behind that, you have the gas to build a factory to defend any kind of counterattack. Or if they're like, well, screw it, if I'm going to lose my natural, I'm going to go all in on Ravagers. Now you can have Cyclones, you can have tanks if you get up to that kind of attack, even a Starport. So it's a very cool build.
It's going to be interesting. It's also going to be interesting to see them fighting against the new skins. I haven't seen those drones before. They look like weird fish.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that until you said that.
Very spiny. Very spiny. The Zerglings.
Aquatic Zerg, they have a patch of skins that they're all like aquatic, right?
And here, yeah, they are. And here we go. You see it coming in. Immediately now he knows exactly what he's up against. 2 SCVs, 2 Marines. It's about to be 4. 4 Zerglings on the way. 1 Queen is up. We're looking for the cancellation of this hatchery. That's what this is aiming to achieve right here. And if it does, then that's a victory.
Yep, just cancel the hatch and make it expensive to dislodge. So a couple of bunkers. Like, if you ever want to get down this ramp, you better have some kind of crazy X factor. But Rogue is pulling all the drones. Before the bunker finishes. Here comes the Zerglings behind us. He goes for the SCVs. He's... Oh, my God. He just
Can he finish it? A bunker's up. A bunker's up. Can he get there? Can he get there? That's the difficult part of it. He's being just pushed away here.
One gets canceled, a couple links pull up.
He's in the bunker. He's in it. It happened.
Even gets out, gets the Queen down to about 1 health there, and it's going to be back on top of that. I do think Rogue is going to hold this off, but go back to my original question of at what cost, that off-caster question. Look at all the links coming out. He's got 2
Huge
Queens.
Investment.
Didn't have drone mining time for a while. And the frustration of this build from the Terran is back at home, churning out SCVs.
Exactly. You might think, oh, well, that was a failure. Nope. Look at the drone count. Look at drone count versus workers. And he already has the wall off. He's, of course, he's not going to let himself be vulnerable to a counterattack. That would be ridiculous. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get back with the barracks, but you can just build factory units for the moment. This is not going to work unless Kalazar accidentally pops them out on the wrong side of the wall, which he's not going to do.
It doesn't repair?
He is going to have to do that, yes. Zergling DPS is good enough to break that without repairs. And they're the Hellions. So, ultimately, this was well executed. If he could have got the hatchery, great. But this was not a failure from Kalazar. It achieved what it needed to achieve, and now the game is on a pretty even keel.
Yeah, and to be fair to Rogue as well, if you don't scout out those barracks and you kind of see it coming at about the time he did, that's about as good of a defense as you can make as well. So, you know, yes, it's equal, if not slightly in favor of Kalazar, but Rogue did the best with what he had as well. So, again, top-notch play on both sides.
Yep. It has been fantastic so far, befitting of our inaugural $10,000 tournament. And good to see a little bit of aggression as well.
Dude, you said ShoutCraft Kings is 10,000 for the foreseeable future, right?
Yes, yeah, for the rest of the year. And it is a monthly event. We haven't delayed it for 2 months. I mean, a lot of people have been concerned about that. Hey, have you changed the schedule? Because we haven't been able to do a monthly event. And there's been a couple of reasons, you know. I had a health concern earlier in the year, and then we had a month, July, which was just, there was a major every weekend. Right? For a scene that's supposedly shrinking, StarCraft sure has a hell of a lot of major tournaments going on.
No. It's like, I don't even give the defense anymore, because the people that are usually saying that, it's like, all right, well,
it's
you haven't
silly.
been watching this.
Well, it's not as big as League of Legends. All right, cool. So,
yeah.
Still big.
We'll settle for
big.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's good news for the future here. We are going to see Cloaked Banshee coming out from Calzer. Every time I see this, I'm always like, I feel like when it comes in late like this, it just can't do that much. But I feel like the reason why Terrans reach for that Cloaked Banshee is A, it can fight creep. That's, of course, not its primary goal. But B, that off timing is actually really frustrating for a lot of Zerg players, because they don't want to be making spore crawlers. They don't. No, they don't. They oftentimes, if they suffer kind of losses. Oh,
that was an interesting mistake, because that allowed the Cloaked Banshee to be scouted.
And he sees a lot, by the way. He sees the tech lab on the starport, so he's going to have the answers coming out. He sees the lab on the barracks. Oh, so he's going to go all in. It's going to be Queen.
Pretty much.
Which Paul, by the way, he's like, oh, that's what you're doing? Okay, here we go.
Yeah. That's an interesting bit of decision-making there from Rogue. Got to see how well that works out. Like, Stim is nowhere near done. Stim will not be done by the time the Nydus network is up. The Banshee, of course, will be annoying, but, I mean, what's it going to do? Pick away at this third? That's not going to stop what's coming.
Is the biggest goal here. Like, yeah, some damage would be nice, but he sees the Nydus.
Yep. Hopefully he clicked it. We don't know that for sure, but he probably did.
Yeah. He's got to know. He's bringing the Hellions back. He doesn't see the Nydus itself. A lot of players want to pull their SCVs to defend. He's amassing at his natural, and the Hellions are going out on the map. Nah.
Oh, no. That was a big mistake. It's going to be seen now, but too late. It's too late. There are queens everywhere. There's going to be creep all over the main. The Banshee isn't here. The siege tanks aren't out, and they're not going to get out either. Stim is nowhere near done. This is a potential disaster right here. This is something of an all-in move, but a great response to what was seen. Rogue is looking in... I mean, this is an almost undefendable attack, right?
He's got the one tank out. That's his only hope. But there's a lot of energy on those queens, too, so they can just transfuse or even make Ravagers like that. I love the non-overcommitment from both players, but again, like you said, it's super favorable for Rogue here.
Yep.
Callus is going to hold back.
God, if he can get that tech lab.
Rogue also not overcommitting.
If he could just pick up that tech lab and cancel that stim, that would be absolutely huge. And with the queens, he has the ability to do that. I think he realizes he's going for it. He's going for it. Can he get it? He's going to go in. He doesn't, of course, he doesn't want to overcommit, but he thinks he might have enough to overwhelm him, and he may very well. He doesn't go for the tech lab, but of course, he's got no Marines. Stim doesn't make any damn difference, does it? Another corrosive bile landing. The bunker, however, holding strong just for the moment, but I think there's just too much Zerg right here. The Queen transfuses completely on point. GG. Rogue takes revenge for that GSL versus the world loss. Said, you know what? That blemish on Korea's record now expunged.
And it was just a blemish, by the way. They went really 7 or 8-1, or no, 7-1.
7-1.
Maps in that portion of the tournament. But here, Rogue, by the way, again, the defense, like we talked about, was as good as it could get for him. And then he scouts out the build coming out from Calzer, immediately goes with the Nydus attack, puts it in the right spot, shows great patience, and wins in dominant fashion. I mean, it's just top-level play. Well done.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. Well, Calzer tried and executed relatively well at the start, but the Nydus play obviously caught him completely off guard. Tank wasn't ready. Banshees weren't back into position. It was really undefeatable, I think, at that point, once it got to that level.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why it is the snap call. As long as you've been producing queens and you're in kind of position to have that. I mean, he didn't even have any roaches, really. He just added the 9 or 10 roaches as he realized that's what he was going to be going for. Yeah. And it was just too much. And like you said, Calzer did about what he could. He almost got Stim. He doesn't win that fight at all if Stim does finish. It's just it just looked very one-sided because it was the right call for that. Now, if that scout doesn't get in there, is this still what Rogue was going to go for? I'm not so sure. There's also crazy things like players will go, and you'll see this, by the way, in other games. They'll go Viking first to prevent this from happening. They'll pick off the overlords in the nearby area. If you still make an overseer and get in that base, well, at least the Viking's in position to scout this out. Because if you pull the SCVs, and some players will even get really clever and build like E-bays around the Nydus spot to minimize the space, you can win that fight there, and then that's where you can win the game.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Well, that was a hell of a thing. One of our shorter games today. Probably blissfully, otherwise we will be at this all day, which I'm okay with. I could stick it out.
There's worse ways to spend a Sunday.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, we have our next opponent up right now. I don't want to keep you waiting. Because what a damn opponent. You've just seen who it is, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yep. Oh, wow. Here we go.
This in particular, by the way, this is his forte.
This is going to be a hell of a fight. As Rogue attempts to hold the throne, he held the line against a foreign Terran and his shenanigans, a very good foreign Terran, but can he hold the line against the man that Terran defeated, TY?
Yes, and for people that don't follow the Korean scene very rigidly, TY, obviously one of the absolute best Terrans, so in that short list of top 3, maybe 4, but his TVZ in particular, it's very good, and in a really fun way, by the way. Not really good in the sense that, like, kind of like Innovation, where not many Zergs get out of the mid-game against him because he just overwhelms them with a giant army. TY is certainly capable of that, but he is a ghost master in the late-game TVZ matchup where a lot of Terrans don't want to take it and are not comfortable against Zergs. TY is at home and is a guy apart. There's not many people that play the way he does. It's really fun.
I have loved TY's play for a long time. I love TY's play ever since I saw the good old, like, sensor tower. I think it was the... You remember the incident where someone suggested, hey, what if in this situation you built, like, a sensor tower? People like, oh, that'd be bronzy. And then TY does it the next day in Pro League. Like, that was an interesting move. And TY's innovative, no doubt. But also incredibly quick, you know, the Korean style. It's like, it's him and Maru, who's probably the only one who's faster.
Yeah, he's a fun mixture of... He just has really good control, really good micro. And like I said, I not to highlight this too much, I hope it plays out because it has all day so far, but if ghosts start coming out, his ghosts are different from everybody else's. They hit their snipes, they're dropping EMPs on infestors, and he'll even go for nukes. It's just a really fun style.
It is nuts. In a fun way, a very fun way indeed. Game's been great so far, folks. If you're just tuning in, well, I mean, you've missed a lot, but there's so much more to come. So you don't need to worry too much about that. We have great games for you there. You're not going to be short on those. That I can guarantee you, because we've had incredible games up to this point. And here we go once again. Hopefully for yet another one. The northwest position of Odyssey LE, ladies and gentlemen, brings us in the red trunks, your Terran player from Splice, TY. Versus his opponent to the southeast position, the current reigning king of the hill, actually at 2 maps rather than 1, with $1,000 under his belt. Playing Zerg, Jinez, Rogue.
And TY, last prominently seen at that GSL versus the World event where he did lose pretty handily to Innovation in the finals, but everyone lost handily to Innovation. Looking to do some more here. We have another GSL finishing off this year. And then really only a couple other events, and it's BlizzCon. It is crunch time in the StarCraft 2 world. Everyone's playing towards BlizzCon. Everything else is nice, and it's obviously a cool way to build your legend and to line your pockets, but the year really takes shape and funnels down into November for the most part.
Yes, it does. It does. That is where it all culminates. That's the most fun live event I've ever been a part of, because that is a crowd that you cannot match. That is an enthusiastic crowd. That's a Blizzard crowd, you know, the Blizzard event.
Yeah.
And that's just different to everything else.
It's a cool celebration of StarCraft. You know, I hope everyone gets a chance to experience that at some point. If not, then they stream it. So do what you can to watch that. Make time for that.
Totally worth it. You'll see the holographic stage, like something that's not really been done by anybody else. Like not even to that level, not even TI7. It's just a thing that Blizzard kind of uniquely does and can do so much with.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds kind of lame to be like, check out the stage, because you know I know what that sounds like, but actually check out the stage.
Check out the stage. You've not seen anything like that. It's seriously cool thing. All right, let's see what we got from TY here. So barracks straight into the factory, expansion on the low ground here. Falling's gonna come out and just be a little bit annoying. With only a single Marine, that could be a little bit of a problem here for TY.
Yeah,
The Reaper is in defense though, so he's not across the map, so he should be able to hold this. If there was
like
any more,
Reaper too. Yeah, it's staying back at home. A lot of Reapers would get on the other side of the map and defend, but like you said, this would have been a problem if it's one of the other sneak around builds from our Zerg player, but it's not going to be. Quick aside, and it's such a small thing, but it's really cool. The different skins actually give different animations and wireframes actually when you select. It's little details like that that are actually a big deal, because actually earlier in StarCraft those things didn't happen. But you know, if you're going to buy some skins through that war chest and kind of change up your game, it's nice when it's all encompassing. It's not just a single thing.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to pay for it, might as well make them look good, right? You know, it's going to make them worthwhile. We have no problem with them being used in this tournament, and you know, honestly, outside of some of the minor complaints that I've seen, which can be fixed, you know, the visibility complaints on a very small minority of units, that can be fixed. That should be fixed. I've seen there's apparently an issue with the new Baneling skin. That needs dealing with to make sure people can actually see it on low graphics.
Is what they were saying, yeah.
Yeah. But outside of that, ultimately, it's cool to watch that, and it's a bit insulting to viewers to think that even a casual viewer wouldn't be able to tell what this is. It's a drone, obviously. It's mining things. Everybody knows that. Doesn't matter if it looks like a fish, a lobster, or a goddamn turkey.
Well, I think for me, the strongest argument was always that there was some concern that if you have too many skins happening, it can affect the load time of the game. There can be some latency and stuff like that. So it seems like that's not as much of a concern now for whatever reason.
Doesn't seem like it, no.
And as long as that's the case, if the impact of the game is not being, you know, depleted and it's not having worse performance, then I'm all for it, because I agree with you. I can't imagine. Let's also be honest, StarCraft fans and players are some of the smarter. I feel like it has to be the case. Smarter and more intelligent people. So again, you can't like look at a new Zergling skin and be like, I can't tell. Is that a Hydra? If it's a Hydra, I'm in trouble. If that's just a Zergling, I don't know. And then they're like really pissed.
It's like, well, that looks like an Ultralisk, and I'm really confused now. How to get to Hive Tech in 2 minutes? This is awful. Well, no, I don't quite think we're dealing with people that stupid, but you know, never quite know. In the meantime, the third base has obviously been taken. There were a lot of drones pre-made for this base, so they're already saturating very quickly.
Yeah, he's up to 52 drones
at 5. He's gone hard. And really, like, why not? Like, TY hasn't built a killing force yet. He hasn't got medevacs yet. He's late on those. His stim is about to be done, so he could do something with that. But without medevac support, you generally don't want to do that yet, you know? We're going with the double upgrade approach instead.
Exactly. That's some of the nice... again, the level of play is so high. So TY went for 3 CC, and that means he's not going to have that killing power. You can't really harass and do that. I mean, you could, but any kind of like roach timing attack or Nydus attack like we saw would just simply end you. It would be completely over. So TY is not willing to take that risk, but the pitfall is if the Zerg doesn't scout that, they have like 20 lings, they have 6 queens, they have 35, 40 drones, when they could have 15 to 20 more drones. And obviously that's a fully saturated third base, so it's a big deal. And it's again, Rogue is able to snuff that out, see it coming, and do the right thing.
So far, so good for Rogue, but the time for peace has passed. The time to get out the big stick is on the way. Combat shield isn't quite done yet, but once TY pushes the creep back, it will be.
Yeah, Rogue scouts it. Again, these guys, everyone's so on top of their scouting. If that Overseer doesn't see that army coming, 16 Marines and some Hellions showing up, and you're like in a drone cycle, well, that's $500 to your opponent. Thank you very much. But he's on top of it.
Here we go. That's a big stim forward, and shield's not done yet, so it's a bit of a dodgy engagement. These roaches are going to do well against it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of a feel me out.
Yeah. Would have waited.
That push. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Would have waited a little bit. You know, you had 10 seconds on the armor, 10 seconds on the weapons. You know, that was a big timing potentially.
Yeah. That push, like the 16 Marines, we have seen games end with that. By the way, it is possible. If there's a fourth base, if it's not Roach Tech, it's just Lings, that kind of stuff can actually lose to that. What ends up happening is TY gets the information that he's facing against a Roach style, which is a little bit less common, but it requires a very different response. You need probably 2 fact tanks, faster Liberators is a good way to go here as well. Starting to mix in Marauders earlier than you would typically like. It used to be just that you make pure Marines. There we go. There's the second factory. Yep. He's adding 2 more barracks. I would bet you dollars to donuts. At least one of those is another tech lab, if not both.
Oh, needs to get out of there. Takes a bit of a sting. Rogue being very opportunistic, as he should be with this, picking off units where he can. The Terran army is by no means overwhelming here, and in fact, the Zerg army is looking pretty damn scary. There are only 2 tanks in the mix right now, and the army supply advantage for the Zerg is heavily in favor of Rogue.
Yes, this timing attack is massive. He's showing here with a huge supply advantage. Only the 2 tanks, like you pointed out. The second factory nowhere near getting in there.
Oh, God, here it goes. The Biles don't really land, but they're in a corner now. He's going to have to back off yet again. The tanks were picked off. Like, there's no tank support now. This is an overwhelming number of Roaches. That single tank will now finally get picked off. Huge numbers of Ravagers as well. Workers pulled off the line and killed. This is really, really bad for the Terran.
Yes, it's super bad. There's no planetary, there's no defense behind this. He's not making 3 or 4 tanks at a time. I think Rogue's just on top of this. He smells blood in the water. There's no drone cycle behind this like some Zergs would do. He is going to go for the $500. He's going to go for this map and take out a second player here in TY, one of the best.
Yep. That takes him up to 3 maps won.
Oh, 3, my bad.
Takes, you know, one of the best Zerg in the world, and then best foreign Terran, one of the best Korean Terran. Oh, God, we're going to have to find a Protoss for him. I think I've got a few in mind, but there's the GG. Rogue proving that you shouldn't pay too much attention to recent form when it comes to matchups. That was just dominance. And I think you pointed out the key point of that. Like, Terran are not necessarily used to dealing with the Roach style, especially that, like, 3-base aggressive, I'm going to go for you right now, Roach Ravager style. It's not that common, and TY wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, and that's what's so strong about that timing is TY scouts it out at a decent time. It's not like he scouts it out, there's 40 Roaches and it's just already over. He scouts it out at a decent time, but he's not set up to deal with that. He doesn't have 2 fact already behind this. He's not making... He didn't have 6 Liberators, something like that. You know, the stuff that you would want to deal with this, he was starting to get there, but Rogue wasn't even saturating a 4th base. He was just going for the win, and he knew that timing attack was going to be very hard to hold off at that time.
Yeah, it was brutal timing. It hit like an absolute thunderclap, and there wasn't much that TY could really do. It's, you know, fancy micro ain't getting you out of that. He was backed up against the wall. He dodged as many Biles as he could, but can't dodge regular attacks, and there was a lot of them. Way too many. Massively outnumbered was the Terran. No Liberator support, minimal tank support. That was it. Just rolled over him completely. Very nice. Very well executed strategy there from our current King Rogue, who's sitting on $1,500, having equaled Serral. We got some very successful Zergs today. They're running away with all the money. Yeah,
which is funny because they've had some rough patches. We haven't seen a whole lot of Zerg champions recently, although currently our king is the IEM Shanghai champion, so a little bit of that is of course not true, but nice, not bad. Serral showing good form. Rogue comes in here, says, hey guys, I just won a major tournament, look at me, and is performing accordingly.
That he is. We're going to take a short break, folks. A lot of action going on. I'm sure you'd like a couple of minutes to yourselves. When we get back, though, the king must continue to defend, and since we've gone through Terran and we've gone through Zerg, maybe a Protoss might be a good idea. We'll be right back after the break, folks. This is ShoutCraft Kings August, the inaugural $10,000 event. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. Starcraft 2 can be pretty rough sometimes. It's skillful and demanding. It stretches even professional players to their absolute limits. Bearing that in mind, the last thing you need is somebody yelling in your ear and reminding you of all your mistakes.
Your SCVs can't mine when they're dead.
That's why I created the TotalBiscuit Announcer Pack for StarCraft 2. Enjoy positive reinforcement.
Your supply blocked. Might as well GG now.
Sincere compliments.
What you lack in minerals, you make up for in charm.
And calm, relaxing notifications.
Your base is under attack. We're all gonna die!
Are you a Zerg player? Let me tell you how beautiful you are.
Metamorphosis is a beautiful thing. Oh god, it's monstrous!
All this and much, much more from the man who brought you the best play-by-play event in history.
Building a supply depot right here. This could be the tactical crucial move of this entire game. It's all about 20%, 25%, and here we go.
The TotalBiscuit Announcer Pack. Available to buy now in-game on the collection page.
Resume the real-time strategy-ing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ShoutCraft Kings $1,500 for Rogue so far event, and potentially $10,000 worth prize money. Oh, well, this has been a hot event so far with some excellent matches.
Yep, and if you're just now joining us, a reminder, you can watch a lot of this on your YouTube channel, I believe, not too far on after the event. Or if you're sub, watch the VODs, correct?
Be able to catch the VODs immediately. We'll also do a rerun straight after the show for those who missed it, so you don't necessarily have to subscribe to watch the event again. But yeah, if you want to do spoiler-free VODs, youtube.com/TotalBiscuit is the place to find that, and all of the other events also in the spoiler-free format. So very, very nice, easy way to watch it. It's a nice compact event. Now it's something you can watch over a day. Without further ado, we'd like to make sure that we continue to be able to be watched over a day by getting the hell on with it. The next challenger. We've put Rogue up against the best that Terran has to offer, and they've fallen quickly. We've put him up against Zerg. They've fallen not so quickly, but in decisive fashion. Now, the Protoss get their chance at the field, and what a Protoss to choose for this. It's Stats.
Love Stats. I've become a bigger and bigger fan of him most recently, not just because he is probably the best Protoss we got, but he's also just a really nice, awesome, funny guy. He's really friendly with all the other players. He's always smiling, always having a pretty good time, seems fairly relaxed, and then he just shows up and devours people's souls in StarCraft. He's quite good at the game.
Yeah, I'd say so. Sound a little bit like that as he devours people's souls, just sort of a casual, friendly chewing. Not sort of, he's not the kind of person to rip from limb, I think, you know?
No.
Bit polite about it.
Yeah, I think if you were to be eaten by Stats, it would be a dignified, napkin on lap kind of thing, fork and knife in the right hand at the right time.
Two napkins on the chin, because the, prodigious size of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a distinct feature of Stats. Handsome feature, certainly not mockery. That's kind of chin that could break worlds, I say. Quite the weapon. Here we go. They're ready to go.
Who was that?
The chin toss?
Yeah, who was that?
That's Stats, right? Stats
what?
The chin toss. Yeah, it's Stats. Almost.
Oh, I didn't know.
Almost certainly, I think. Hopefully I'm right about that.
Yeah. I'm excited. Like you said, Rogue has been playing really good, beaten one of, if not,
actually wrong.
the best Terrans.
I'm totally wrong. It's classic, isn't it? Classic is the chin toss.
Classic's the chin toss.
Yes.
There's so many great chins in StarCraft, man. It's hard to
true. Very much so. All right. Here we are on Abyssal Reef once again. Let's see who drowns. Will it be the king? To the southeast position, with 3 wins under his belt and $1,500 in his war chest. In the blue trunks playing Zerg. Jinaire's Rogue. Versus his opponent to the northwest position. In the red trunks playing Protoss. It's Stats.
Jinaire, Rogue chasing that fabled 4th win here.
Hasn't happened so far in this event. Doesn't happen very often either.
No. Especially as of late. I mean, you and I have been doing this for a few months now, and it's like, I would love to hear what the biggest streak is. I think
it's 10.
Yeah.
It was innovation.
No, is what I mean. I wasn't there for the 10.
Yeah, that was early on.
You had Anius, I think, and it was just too much Terran power in one place. And
it was. It was also a very early event. Like, I have a feeling that we'll never see a streak like that again, as people have sort of got more used to the format.
Yeah. I don't know who would do it. I mean, I think Innovation's the best player in the world right now, and he,
sometimes can't. Yeah, there's more often than not that Innovation showed up as the event and picked up maybe one map. Sometimes not even that. It is that hard. It doesn't matter. You can be the best in the world and still get knocked on your ass. And then you could see somebody like Serral or somebody like Rogue come in and just demonstrate that they work in this format. And I think if you get a couple of wins under your belt, you become much harder to stop. You get warmed up, your momentum is in play, and everyone else has to play cold.
Yep. There's definitely something to that for sure. So we're going to have that kind of 1-gate expand coming out from stats. This is the third time we've seen this from our players, and it's the reason why is it sets you up for a fairly fast Stargate, which is the kind of common go-to, but it also gives you a chance to be really responsive to some kind of all-in. So this matchup has settled into a pretty decent place where the Zergs aren't all-inning as much in competitive play, not at least in the very early Ling or Pool kind of variety. It'll be more elevated Lings or Ling Flood, still some Ravager stuff, that kind of thing. But Protoss versus Zerg has gotten to a pretty decent place where it's pretty reliably a mid-game determined matchup, where that fast third Nexus is maybe a kind of catalyst for aggression, or some Hydraling, Baneling battles like we've seen against that fourth base attempt from the Protoss.
All right, let's see what we've got coming in from the toss. Well, Stargate on the way up. We may very well just see a Phoenix right out of that. It's kind of towards the back. This isn't exactly an ideal map to be doing a huge amount of, say, Oracle harass on. It's definitely not quick either. But getting a Phoenix out, always nice. Poke away the Overlords.
They usually follow up with it. It's pretty determined that it's always Oracle. It's no longer about how, like, you need to get it in really fast and do a lot of damage. It's more about
the revelation
and the Stasis Ward. It's kind of the ongoing effect of the Oracle, which, somewhere out in the world right now is David Kim smiling to himself, because I think that's the more interesting use of the Oracle. The era where it showed up and just like,
murdered mineral lines,
kills 12 drones. It's like, that's not as fun and exciting. Where the Oracle is now is really fun and pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting the difference between the Oracle at the pro level or the Oracle at lower level on ladder. The Oracle's still a death machine in terms of the ladder in obliterating mineral lines. Here's an interesting thing, though. A second Oracle direct follow-up.
Yeah, and that's just to basically... Well, you can do a lot of Stasis Ward stuff with that, so if Stats is choosing to be pretty on top of that, that'd be really cool. But it just means I'm going to see everything forever. It's kind of like Speed Overlord for Zerg against Protoss, where it's like, whatever tech you're doing, whatever expansion you're taking, I'm going to see it. You can't stop it from happening. You don't have 7 Stalkers at the 5-minute mark or anything like that. And there will be that Void Ray or Phoenix, as you called. TotalBiscuit, good call there. It comes out. And that, even with Speed Overlord, which is what we do have, it just wards them away. It's just annoying. It says, hey, I don't want you to... If you do come in here, it's going to be at the cost of that.
Interesting little maneuver, just placing it right in there. And of course, the counter to that was to move a drone in. But what's interesting is it also froze 2 lava. So drones that were being built, well, haven't been. Which is a very interesting use of that. Haven't seen that done before. And this is direct harass when it comes to the Stasis Ward. And he's doing it again and gets half the drone line with it this time. Yeah.
And that becomes, like we saw, when the first Oracle shows up, it only gets 1 drone. Yes, like you pointed out, it gets a couple of larvae, which is a nice bonus, but otherwise a good response from Rogue. But the Adepts show up, they shade out immediately, they grab the attention of Rogue, and that wins half the middle line being frozen.
Yeah, and now he flies in just to check a few things, takes damage on his shields, not much to the structure there. Doesn't have the energy to drop another Stasis Ward for a little while. And doesn't really want to kill a few drones with his laser either. Doesn't really have the means to do that. There's good defense, but he's now having to commit Lings to defend against the potential of a Stasis Ward.
Yep.
Unusual.
It grabs his attention. There's one being attempted at the natural here as well. That one gets thwarted, I believe. So with the Lings there, you can attack it as it's being materialized, whatever you want to...
But how good is this? I mean, it allows the third to be taken unopposed by the Protoss. The Lings are stuck on the other side of the map, having to deal with Stasis Wards of all things.
Yep, and that's why you go double Oracles, because they're just frozen back there. As you point out, too, the one shows up and is like, yeah, go ahead and hurt my
third
shield.
Is so vulnerable to this. He's going for it. Oh, he's not pulling, he's not pulling, he's not pulling! Oh, he got half of it again. That's really a big deal, actually.
Yep. Super annoying. It just costs energy as well, and there's still scouting tech, by the way, so it's not even like it's just this. He sees the evolution chamber, he sees what shows up as a bunch of Lings and some Queens. He can infer that a Hydra Den is somewhere coming up behind this. But also think of what it plays to the mind of the Zerg player. A, he's got to be paying attention, but B, he can't sneak like a cheeky Spire. He can't go quick hive. I mean, he could do those things, but there's just a very good chance they get scouted, in which point it becomes a huge liability.
Yeah, it does. I'd love to see that land on gas miners, you know, with requiring just a little bit extra micro. The player doesn't realize and doesn't put stuff back in the gas. That could be a problem, but you know, we saw the impact on the immediate income. We saw the Zerg ahead in workers, but actually only equal in terms of mining as a result of that. And think about that. You know, that's lost income, and these oracles are paying for themselves that way.
Yeah.
And these maneuvers are annoying. And it is Revelation, so you know what? We've never seen them fire a shot yet, and they probably never will either.
And I love what you pointed out earlier, too, that the third for the Protoss goes down uninhibited, but it's going to be Rogue. Actually, that's going to spawn. This fourth base is being attempted as well, but meanwhile, we have some harass at the natural, as we're kind of seeing here.
A couple of banelings used.
And it looks like that's going to be a canceled Nexus, so that's good by Rogue, by the way, because this game was getting away from him otherwise.
Yeah.
We have Storm, Charge, and Immortals coming out from the Protoss, which is exactly the right tech you want in dealing with what he's facing. But with that fourth being slowed down a little bit, Rogue, with his own fourth base, is all of a sudden putting himself in a spot to be in a pretty good economic position.
Storm's done. And we've got energy as well for it. Let's see, he might actually need to do it. Yep, he reveals that. Unsurprising. It's a pretty early Storm, and he's going Templar Immortal right now.
Yeah, 2 Immortal at a time, by the way. That is actually something that was missing from Squirtle's play. The double robe was a pretty big deal. Because, again, with those Oracles constantly scouting, it used to be in Heart of the Swarm and stuff that if you go double Robo, the Zerg's just like, oh, Spire immediately. Well, with these Oracles picking it up, they're like, please go Spire. I'll add 2 Stargates, and I'll come out with Phoenix or Void Rays or whatever, or both, and Storm, and on this map I can take 5 bases in my little corner. Yeah, good luck with those Mutas.
Indeed. Lurker on the way here for Rogue, which is fine. Storm can deal with it. More Stasis Wards were just placed, incidentally. Just trying to find out where they went. They were placed defensively. That's a good move. And here come the Lings, and trigger most of them in the process. So that helps. Obviously, you can't kill Stasis Warded units, but taking half the army out of play is a pretty big deal. Queen's going to get assassinated here by the run-by, and a couple of Hydra's going to die as well, so that actually becomes even more worthwhile. Nice play so far here from our Protoss. And as I mentioned, so Storm does deal with Lurkers, but it can be tricky. Getting in range of them is difficult. You need more than 1 Storm to kill them. It can be, you know, compared to Disruptor, it's maybe not ideal.
Oh,
Baneling drop. Good amount of economic damage.
Has the Stalkers there, warped in time, which is a great response, but then he doesn't move the probe, so he ends up taking a lot of losses there.
Yep, think he made an assumption there.
Not bad. And Rogue is like, where are these Zealots coming from? He's actually going to investigate it, which is, again, a subtle point, but really, really good. A lot of Zergs just never figure that out and constantly lose from kind of backdoor harass, but he's not going to let that happen here.
No, he's not. In the meantime, though, we're seeing a very scary high-tech army. Archons, Immortals, heavily upgraded. Templar with a lot of energy here as well. In the meantime, though, look at this flanking position that Rogue set up. I mean, that's not where you want to be attacking. It's a very difficult position, but he's setting up the Banelings. It looks like he maybe even wants to bait the Protoss army to come at him, but the Storms, left, right, and center. You don't want to be anywhere close to that. A second round. The Banelings mostly pulled back, a flank in from the side. The Archons hold up, but now it looks like it's collapsed on both sides. There is too much to deal with. The time warp doesn't come into play. The actual stasis wards don't either, and suddenly the Protoss is in a huge amount of trouble. Rogue has completely overwhelmed him. A 3-pronged attack from all sides.
The surround, TotalBiscuit. If he fights on one front there, he's washing Banelings into Archons. He's getting stormed to the teeth, but the multi-pronged attack is too much. A Zealot warping up here, but the damage has been done.
Devastating.
You talked about that high-tech army. Well, it's high-tech, high-risk, high-reward if it's able to snowball very strong, but if you lose that kind of the big fist of the army, that's it, man. There's no rebuilding.
Storm. GG. Who can stop this man? Who?
These are, I mean, not Stats. That was... Stats had some great ideas, good execution. We loved the harass from the Oracles. That was very strong, getting great intel. But it's just crazy, because it's not a surprising tech. He goes Lurkers, which is a little bit different. we haven't been seeing that as much, but he never even gets to lurkers because what he ends up doing is just pulling off a beautiful and very well executed multi-prong attack, and it completely washes over stats. It's not that he didn't know it was coming, it's just he couldn't hold off the execution of it.
No, he couldn't. It was a hell of a thing to watch. Rogue on fire right now, $2,000 in the pocket. Maybe flying under the radar of some, but as you mentioned, he's a recent champion.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that was one of the things I was going to comment on earlier when you said this. He's just not one of the more like mega flashy names. You know, he doesn't have the oomph behind him that some of these other guys do, but he's been around and he's been at the top, you know, near the top of the Korean scene for Zerg at least, but really across the board for a while there. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder why. It can't be interviews because it's almost like Innovation is almost half famous for how bad his interviews are. So it's not that.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. But I think there's just so much talent in Korea, right? That it's super easy to just lose track of who's good because there are so many. Yeah,
I think you're right.
It's definitely got something to do with that, I would think.
Well, more people know the name. He's the most winning guy today so far. Four wins now.
Yeah, I think we've only had him once or maybe at max twice in this event before. He definitely didn't put on the show he has today. So making it count when it matters, always a good skill, a useful talent to have, as Greg would have said.
Oh, you.
It always comes back. Can't forget something like that.
You could even say, I'll be Grak.
Indeed, you could say that.
Ugh.
I mean, you would be pretty terrible for doing it, but you could say it.
You could though, right? I didn't say it. I just said you could.
You could say that Grak Street's Grak all right.
Ugh. Boy, listen. I went and saw Valerian last night, so I've had my fill of really terrible dialogue.
All right. I haven't got around to seeing that yet.
Don't.
Okay.
Wait till you're on a plane or something.
Good to know. I watched Kong Skull Island last night. It was amazing.
That I actually want to see. I heard
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so very good. And we may very well see a bit of a monster fight right now. Oh, yes. The next opponent is an absolute monster. Currently ranked 6th in the world. He doesn't have a weak matchup. He also was the runner-up in 2016's Grand BlizzCon Finals. He's at the best he's ever been. It's Dark.
And this is a hell of a ZVZ on paper. I mean, we were kind of talking about why is it that Rogue is a little bit of the hipster favorite, a little bit of the hardcore StarCraft fan. You know, a lot of people talk about him, but not really on the tips of the tongue of the household names. It's because of people like this. Dark is one of those players. He's a handsome guy. He's funny. He's kind of a little bit cheeky. He's got the big wins. He's got the flashy matchups. This guy is the sexy Zerg of the Korean scene, if you will.
Yeah, but this is a revenge match for him. Because very recently, the end of July, he did in fact lose 3-0 to Rogue in a Zerg versus Zerg. So this is a chance to get a little bit of revenge. A lot of people have said, oh, you know, the only weakness of Dark is ZVZ, but statistically on paper, that's not true. ZVZ is actually statistically his best matchup, but he has lost, I think it's because he's lost high-profile Zerg versus Zerg that people have got that impression of him.
Well, I think it's like when he's been at his highest peak in talent and skill, it feels like it's the ZVZ one that he hits and it's like, oh,
that's the bump in the road.
That Terran Protoss, he would have destroyed him type of thing.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. I think we've had Dark play quite a few ZVZ in Kings, and he hasn't done well in them. I will say that. He has not. It just so happens that ends up being what happens. We try to avoid having him play ZVZ. It's like, oh, well, I like him in another matchup, but then he ends up in a group, and it's like, well, we've run out of other players. We need to have him play now because that's how the scheduling works in this show, and we can't just change that. But maybe he can break Rogue here. It's possible, and that would be a great little revenge story for him. The southwest position of Acolyte, ladies and gentlemen, in the red trunks. Number 6 in the world, he is Dark. Versus his opponent who has demonstrated the mastery of all 3 matchups today, the reigning king at 4 wins. from Jin Air in the blue trunks playing Zerg. It is Rogue.
Ooh. A slight misclick there on the drones. It's okay. In StarCraft 2, they'll get right back to work. In Brood War, if you do that, you are about 45 to like 100,000 minerals behind.
Yep. You lose instantly, basically. You lose a Star League as soon as you do that.
It can. It can happen that way. It feels like it. But I was going to say, actually, I would have eaten my words because it's Acolyte, so I should have seen this coming. But both players are going to pretty safely take their 3 bases. They built the gentlemanly spawning pool just so that it's announced to the world that they're not egregiously greedy, but they are... I mean, you don't see this build on other maps. It's because of this map that you see this.
That is true. Yeah, you've got the pocket, and it will be interesting as a direct result of that. A lot of resources right off the bat for a mirror matchup is an interesting situation to see. Often mirrors can get very low economy, but this map facilitates that not to be the case. Facilitates a very passive opening.
They're both not taking gases, by the way, which is really fun. It's a very different kind of ZVZ. If you like Zerg or need an introduction into... If you need the romance of being made into liking ZVZ, today has been the day. Because this is offbeat. They're going to both not take their gases. Their bases are mostly connected by creeps, so there's no real need for that. You're not going to assault your opponent because there's a narrow choke space leading into the natural. So good luck amounting to much with some Ling, harass, or attack. So both players are going to focus on drones. They're going to slowly probably make their way to an Evo chamber or 2 in Roach Warrens. But they're going to make about 65, 70 drones before that, and this map affords them the ability to do that.
Yep, that's going to make things very interesting. We're either going to see 70 drones worth of economy just continuously building roaches forever, or we're going to see something interesting like we did earlier with the full extent of the Zerg tech tree on display.
Yeah, I would love it. Dark's hyper aggressive, so it doesn't typically, a lot of games end before that one way or the other. But that's not to say that he's. I mean, again, with the map kind of going the way it is, but also it's not to say that Dark's like some cheeser or something like that can't make it there. He absolutely will and can. But this map just screams macro. It's usually like the 4th base where the aggression happens. So one player might make 20 or 30 lings kind of pre-made to respond to that, or they'll be like, no, go ahead and take your 4th. I went for faster roach speed, and I'm going to be aggressive that way. So that's where I find we'll probably see the forking in the road for these 2 players.
Yeah, I think we will. There's the lair coming up pretty much at the same time. There's that Evo chamber, as mentioned. And we'll see where it goes from there. We used to be that Muta versus Muta was a big deal, and then they buffed Spores to essentially be giant ion cannons on the ground against biological units. So we did see that kind of go away for a while. Roach Warren coming up from both sides. The addition of Ravager obviously making this composition a little bit more interesting, a little bit more viable. You can do a lot more with it. And the resurgence of the Infestor as of late is causing some interesting wrinkles in this matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, Muta. I find Muta to be really strong in ZVZ. You see a lot of matchups where they just pop out. The player's like, well, I'm going to all in then with my roaches. They hit a wall of spine crawlers, and then there's map control, and it's very fun that way. But a lot of times that's because the 3rd base is more tedious to establish. If you have 3 bases, I feel like Mutas are a little bit worse of an answer, because if they are scouted, the spore crawlers, like you said, make it so that you don't take much damage, and you can very reliably sit on 3 bases and get out the tech that kind of ignores it. I mean, but what do I know? Here's Dark dropping that Spire in a little bit of an irregular place. He is making roaches then Spire, so the timing of that's a little bit odd as well.
Yeah.
But I love that he's taking a 4th pretty quick here, TotalBiscuit, because by the time, at least on paper, by the time Rogue sees that a 4th base is being taken and roaches are coming out, all of a sudden, maybe 20 roaches. Mutas.
Yep. It's nice as well, because you saw he actively deflected the scouting effort. You pointed out earlier that it's in an irregular place, and it looks like that worked out very well, especially since Rogue elected to forgo speed. He's not able to find this. And this is 6 gas worth of Muta, about to be 8 gas worth of Muta. That's a good amount. By the time the Spire finishes, he could go about 7 Mutas, or he could go 6 Mutas at a +1. That's kind of more of a personal preference. I guess it depends on whether or not you want to commit more to Spire later on.
And he's still making roaches, so he's broad saying, like, look, hey, nothing's wrong here. Everything you're seeing is as is. I'm dead even in supply with you, and I have a similar composition, but here's the 6 mutas. They can pick off the scouting. They can pick off the overlords. That's at worst. At best, they get on top of this 4th base, and Ravagers are not an answer, by the way. It's not connected by creep. There are no creep tumors. So Queen's getting to that base, it's going to take a long time. So a really nice move here from Dark.
Yeah, note Dark's also using his overlords to find the position of the enemy overlord so he can find a safe path to move his Mutalisks through, unless he wants to jump right on top. And he could have actually taken out both of those overseers. So he flew right past them, so what do I know about that? It looks like he just wants to get in there immediately and do damage right now before spores come up. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. But he's now just turned around. I think he's realized that the roaches are coming at him, and he's got to bring the Mutalisks back into defense, which is kind of my concern here. And now he's going for overseers. That was weird. That was weird.
So you initially move out because you can always come back and kill the overseers, overlords. But he doesn't know how many roaches he's facing, and because he made 8 or so mutas, he just kind of assumes he has a lot less. As we can see here, though, because we have the God's Eye view.
Yep.
He wasn't. He was actually totally fine. He was dead even, or even ahead in roaches. Yes, he's lacking in Ravagers last I saw by a little bit, but he could have pulled the mutas back reactively. So playing it safe, and again in that best of 1 format, that's kind of what you're going to get, but still getting some advantage. And all of a sudden the composition is complicated for Rogue, who's now adding Hydras, but is like, do I wait for my upgrade? Is this going to be enough? What if he shows up with 25 mutas or something like that? Then all of a sudden my 10 Hydras are not enough. So the matchup becomes more difficult, I feel, for Rogue than it does Dark after those mutas pop out.
Yep, I think you may very well be right. And Dark's starting to make it work. He's starting to make this worthwhile. Ooh, big Baneling investment here. Looking for a drop. He might want speed before you do that, but he is getting it. That's a huge amount of Banelings. And that could be effective against a roach-heavy Ravager composition. You can drop right in the middle of that and devastate that.
Well, I don't know. We'll see if he goes drop. What typically this is looking to do is it's trying to get out a reaction of Hydras, and then the Banelings are strong. But what's nice about the Banelings is it's not like they're not great against roaches, but they'll take it because they're AoE damage, but they're great against Ravagers. And again, it's not like when I say great, I don't mean they do bonus damage because they don't. What I do mean is they help. They contribute with the roaches that you're already having.
Yeah. Yeah, Ravagers a little bit less tough than roaches, and here we go. Baneling's right in the center here. They're going to roll right into the middle. He's trying to back off, but the Ravagers take serious damage. The Concave, I don't think is quite going to be enough here for Rogue, but he is bringing in some reinforcements. It's not enough. It's not enough. He's rolling over. Dark continues to put the pressure on hard. Where are the mutas? They're actually completely out of the way. Dark invested a lot in this attack. Now he's going to make it worthwhile. He's on top of the base. He's wiped out the mineral line. He's killing reinforcements from Rogue. He's got to bring in more stuff of his own. Now he is doing that. Finally, the mutas are in play. Shame they weren't with the army there, but he continues to push forward. He thinks he's got the numbers. Does he? He may very well be mistaken now. I think he is now outnumbered and needs to back away, but he continues to commit, thinking, hey, I have the economic advantage. I can make this work. He still hitting, but all the mutas are down now. The Queen's support, I think, is going to be enough to allow Rogue to break this and push it back.
Yeah, if he does push it back, it would just be to survive. I mean, the economic damage has been done. Look at the bank. It's still in favor of Dark. He's just churning out the low cost of roaches.
Oh my god, they just kept coming.
Yeah, he's just reinforcing. He might even overwhelm him right here.
Yeah, he's still trying. You know, there are more units on the way. I think, God, it's so close. You would have thought the defender's advantage would have been enough, but as you said, the bank is what mattered. Rogue's broke. Rogue is broke, and Dark can keep bringing units in.
He's going to march in there. He's actually targeting down the Queens, by the way, because they do such a great job of transfusing and tanking. But also, don't forget, they are the guys that inject here. So down in money, but also down a little bit here in terms of ability to reproduce. Now, if you look at the harvest count, it's actually still 2 drone advantage for Rogue. He does defend. He's down in supply, so it's army supply. If he can somehow hold here, TotalBiscuit, he could stabilize.
Well, if we see some good Ravager shots from Dark, that could turn this around real quick. And in fact, he can just focus this down. Just one more shot. It's all he needs. He takes it out and he can get out of there. He can get out of there right now. He's bringing reinforcements. He may be able to surround Rogue, but Rogue realizes that's a risk and pulls back. That base going down. Massive deal.
It's a massive deal. It's production, but also, of course, a quarter of their essential economy when fully saturated. But I do like this here coming out. Well, okay, so this is interesting. So we have lurkers coming out for Rogue. Now, on paper, Rogue, that's huge, but Ravagers can still, if timed or is spotted, can kill them. So it's a bit of an issue. But good pick up there. Look at this.
Yeah.
This chess game going on.
Yep, nice defense. They come out just at the right time, as we had a severe army supply advantage for Dark, who was looking to just go for the sledgehammer approach. That's shut down by the lurkers. That means Dark's going to back off a little bit. He's going to rethink. Maybe get some more Ravagers. He's going to need more Overseers. There's no doubt about that. Almost picks off an Overlord there. They just survive a little bit. He's having to bring back a couple of Roaches to defend against this run-by. Shouldn't be a massive problem, but it's annoying. And this is buying time for Rogue here, because losing that base was a big deal. He's now trying to establish this one, which is under direct threat.
Exactly. I mean, he has to do something. He knows he's behind, so if he just sits back and defends until he dies, that's not really much of a game plan. So peeling off some Roaches, he's going to snipe the Queen inside the main as well. Sees that he's not facing a hive, which is also pretty cool and important information, because otherwise he's got to be worried about Broodlords. He knows there's a Spire and that kind of thing, but he sees that he's not facing that, so he knows he's got some time. Might even snipe this southern 6 o'clock base.
Looking for it.
So as long as he defends against what's in front of him right here, he's in okay form.
Yep. It's going to come down, I think, a lot to this corrosive bile shots, being able to eliminate those lurkers, which he hasn't quite been able to do yet. Their space will survive by the looks of it.
Yep. And Dark is going to pull back. He doesn't like the positioning of that. But this is actually the disadvantage of lurkers. You can see that he's just out of position. Rogue's just out of position, so...
Because you got to defend a specific area.
This base.
Yeah, that's gone. No doubt about that. There is that just bastion area. And we actually see Rogue now going for the Mutas. And a lot of them, too.
I like it.
I do.
He doesn't have that much supply to work with, so he can't show up with 45 Mutas or something crazy like that, but he's showing up with enough. And the Army of Dark, of course, again, a piss-poor anti-air
Here it goes. So on top of it, let's see if they can actually land. Those are some good corrosive biles, but not enough, not enough. Rogue is able to bring down the Mutalisk hammer on top of it, and Dark suddenly is sent scurrying for the hills.
And look what he responds with, TotalBiscuit.
Mutas of his own. Here it is. We harder the swarm again. Build some spore crawlers, guys, now.
I don't think he does, right? He's just getting +1 attack right now on his Spire.
Dark with the run-by, doing yet more economic damage. The lurkers were a bit out of position, and Dark, seeing them burrow, is trying to avoid them, doing yet more damage. There's the run-by attempt, but now with the Mutas able to respond to this, they shouldn't do too much damage, but still, they're kind of tough.
Rogue is trashing the mineral line over here. As long as he pulls out, which I'm sure he'll be able to. He'll be okay.
Dark actually looks 15 workers. That was way more than I expected.
I mean, Rogue is
so good.
He is so good. He's way ahead, and I didn't think that was possible. He looked like he was on death's door a little while earlier, and these amazing moves, that great fight. The choice to go Spire, he was low econ, by the way. He's going Spire while getting out Hydras to survive against the Mutas.
Severe economic damage being inflicted here by Dark. He has the Muta advantage as well, and Rogue's aware of that and chooses to lose the mineral line rather than try to engage.
Yeah. Would have liked to have seen him stuck around and kill the Spore Crawler, because then that base would be kind of cracked wide open. But he's going to pull back. And now Vipers for Rogue, by the way. So Parasitic Bomb, a huge deal.
Yep.
Down in Mutas, but if you can get off a couple of Parasitic Bombs, he's only down 4 Mutas, by the way. So it's not like it's infinity.
Yeah, both of them have completely forgone upgrades on that. We're only finally seeing Dark go for Flyer Carapace level 1, which in a Muta versus Muta is a very, very good upgrade. It reduces the damage from the bounces as well, so generally why you prioritize that over, say, attack. But the Parasitic Bomb, interesting.
Dark thinks he's got the air advantage and that he can just not have to worry about it. He's building 0 Spore Crawlers. So when these Parasitic Bombs come out, and if not outright kill a lot of Mutas, at least weaken their health quite a bit, there's not going to be a defense line to fall back on, and I'm really worried about that for Dark.
Dark's still trying to reestablish that 5th that's being picked off multiple times already. And here's the thing, you look at Dark's Mutaflock, it's like, well, it's not getting anything done, is it? It really isn't, and actually Rogue has as many Mutas as you do. And he's got Vipers in the mix, which is going to completely change the complexion of this game. This is going down yet again. Actually, that doesn't even get cancelled, so that's a bit of a stinger.
But at what cost? The mutas are now being... They're cut
God,
off.
they're getting intercepted. He's looking for the interception. Can he land the parasitic bombs? He can't, but he's still taking a lot of damage on the way out.
Man, Dark
And
is
of course, every time he turns around, he gets closer to the parasitic bombs! The bombs! He can't split that many!
Oh my god, and he's gonna take the fight, but what happens is one shot.
Too little. Too late, maybe. I think they're both gonna take a lot of damage, but the air battle will be won by Rogue.
And he is gonna win. Is it enough of an advantage, though? He's gonna come in here on that base that's just been getting attacked the entire time, forget about it. And Dark's still not making Spore Crawlers, so he's got 13 Hydras coming out. No, he's
Taps
dead!
out!
He called it!
GG. Again,
How-
the curse is real when it comes to this tournament with Dark. Holy shit.
I don't know if it's the curse or Rogue's just that good. I could have sworn the guy was dead. And look,
He
I make
looked
bad
it.
calls because, you know, talking and commentating StarCraft at a rate is actually quite difficult. But he made an amazing comeback. That clutch Spire, even his pull, like the subtle thing, he was pulling back lurkers to dodge corrosive bile shots. People are like, yeah, of course he's dodging it. That's hard to do, guys, while being in the right
burrowed
position.
stationary units.
Yes, it's not easy. So
It's kind of
pretty
difficult.
amazing play.
God, we got people asking for ZVZs today. Like, because both ZVZs we've had have been incredible. What a series so far. Rogue, an absolute monster. $2,500 on the board now. What a... this is... Just bear this in mind, right? We look at
10,000 prize pool. He's got
Yeah.
a quarter of it.
Look at this ranking page. That puts him at number 5 on it.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. And he could actually, if he keeps going, beat everybody in a single tournament. He could actually go to the top of the table in winnings straight away if he just keeps going like this.
Yeah. It's like that awesome, like 2-for-1 weekend that some things do, you know, it'd be at a grocery store or some kind of awesome deal. Well, he's getting that advantage here in StarCraft. He came in at the right time. The ShoutCraft Kings.
Amazing. Incredible. I want to see more. So we will do just that. Well, don't give him any Zerg for a little bit. We can maybe give him another one later, assuming that he continues to survive. Our next opponent. We've tried everybody. We've tried the best. Like, anyone I send up here probably has about the same chance against a player this good right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. A man looking to try and rebuild his dominance. There was a period of time when he was just an absolute god. And indeed, lately he has been doing just that. He's been climbing up once again. It's Dia.